All right, let's talk about something that's on pretty much everyone's mind, housing. It just feels impossible to afford a home right now. Well, Washington has noticed, and they've cooked up this huge new bill called the Road to Housing Act. So today, we're going to dive in and try to figure out, is this bill the solution we've been waiting for, or is it just a path to nowhere?
First things first, let's just get a handle on how big this problem really is, because we're not just in a tough spot. We are in the middle of the worst housing affordability crisis this country has seen in over 40 years. You literally have to go all the way back to the crazy high interest rate days of the 1980s to find a time when it was this hard for a typical family to buy a house.
And this number, this one right here, really says it all. 41%. According to the Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta, a typical family with a median income has to spend 41% of what they make just to cover their housing costs. I mean, that's way, way over the 30% that all the experts say is affordable.
So what does that 41% actually look like in dollars and cents? Well, check this out. To comfortably afford the median-priced home in America today, you need to be making over $117,000 a year. But the actual median income is just under $86,000. That leaves this huge 37% gap. It's not just a feeling that things are out of reach. The numbers prove it.
Okay, so yeah, how on earth do we get here? A crisis this big doesn't just pop up out of nowhere. To really understand the plan to fix it, we've got to understand the long and winding road that got us into this mess in the first place.
You know, the best way to think about how we got here is like a play, a drama in 3 acts. Each act added a new layer of problems, building on the last one, to create this, well, this perfect storm of unaffordability that we're all living through now.
So what are the 3 acts? First, for an entire decade, we just stopped building enough houses. Then, the pandemic hit and poured gasoline on that tiny fire with a crazy home-buying frenzy. And finally, when interest rates spiked, it basically froze the entire market in place. Let's break each one down.
So, Act 1, the decade of underbuilding. Just look at this chart. After the 2008 housing crash, home construction didn't just slow down, it completely fell off a cliff. Before the crash, we were building around 1.4 million new homes a year. Since then, we've built barely half that, averaging only about 767,000.
And get this, while we were building half as many houses, the U.S. population grew by 40 million people. You don't have to be an economist to figure that one out, right? Way less supply, way more demand, and of course, prices went through the roof.
Then comes Act 2, the COVID frenzy. The Fed, trying to keep the economy from crashing, dropped interest rates to historic lows. And what happened? It unleashed what one person called a veritable feeding frenzy. Everyone rushed to buy a house, you had insane bidding wars, and home prices just exploded, jumping 30% in only 2 years.
And this is where it gets really sticky. Act 3, what people are calling the Great Mortgage Rate Lock-in. To fight off inflation, the Fed hiked interest rates, and fast. So put yourself in a homeowner's shoes for a second. You've got this amazing 3% mortgage. Are you really going to sell your house just to go get a new one at a painful 7%? No way. And that's what happened. People stayed put, inventory dried up, and it made an already bad situation so much worse.
Okay, so that's the mess we're in. A total tangle of not enough houses, crazy demand, and interest rate whiplash. So naturally, Washington feels like it has to step in, right? And that brings us to their big idea, the 21st Century Road to Housing Act.
And this thing is a monster. I mean, it's 303 pages long, it's got a bit of everything, some tweaks to old government programs, some brand new ideas. It's trying to do a lot, but the real question is it trying to do the right things?
You know, a big part of the bill is filled with stuff that sounds good but doesn't really hit the core problem. We're talking about things like improving housing counselors, updating the appraisal process. There's even a random bit in there about banning a digital currency. These might be fine on their own, but critics are asking, do these things actually get more houses built? And the answer is, not really.
All right, so let's dig in and separate the good from the not so good. Let's look at the fast lanes in this bill, the stuff that might actually work, and the dead ends that could just be a waste of time. Now, this is where the bill actually has some really promising ideas. Real, concrete stuff to boost supply. We're talking about grants to help turn empty office buildings into apartments, making it easier to get financing for less expensive options like manufactured homes, and even funding for accessory dwelling units, ADUs, those backyard cottages or apartments over the garage. These are all practical ideas that could make a real difference.
But honestly, the most powerful tool in this whole bill might be what you could call the carrot and the stick. See, Congress knows that the real problem is often local zoning, cities just not allowing enough new homes to be built. So the bill basically says, hey, local governments, if you change your rules and allow more housing, you get more federal money. If you don't, well, you don't. It's a pretty direct way to push for change at the ground level.
Okay, but here's a huge catch. Even the good ideas in this bill are slow. Like, really slow. Let's say this thing actually passes in 2026. The plans don't even have to be turned in until 2027, which means we might not see any real impact on the market until 2028, at the absolute earliest. And that is a long, long time to wait if you're trying to buy a house.
And then there are the missed opportunities, the missed exits on this road, if you will. For example, why not a temporary break on capital gains taxes for home sellers? You've got millions of longtime homeowners sitting on a mountain of profit who won't sell because they'd get hit with a huge tax bill. Give them a temporary window to sell tax-free, and boom, you could see a flood of new inventory hit the market almost overnight. But that's not in the bill.
And then you've got the real dead ends. The bill goes after big corporate investors, banning them from buying single-family homes. It sounds good, it's a popular idea, but look at the actual numbers. These giant investors, they bought less than 1% of all the homes sold. So you're spending all this political energy to ban a group that's barely a blip on the radar. It just doesn't address the real problem.
So when you put it all together, the good ideas, the frustrating delays, and the flawed parts, where does this road actually take us? What's the final destination?
At the end of the day, it really is a mixed bag. On the one hand, you have to give them credit. They've correctly identified that the core problem is a lack of supply, mostly because of local rules. But the solutions? They're kind of a jumble. Some good incentives, some ideas that are just for show, and a timeline that won't help anyone who needs a home right now.
And that leaves us with the big question, right? Is this bill actually paving a real road towards making homes more affordable for a new generation of Americans? Or is this massive, complicated piece of legislation just another scenic detour that's going to lead us right back where we started? I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Thanks for watching.